The Chancellor said, where is Gul? Forgive me.
Good morning, Eamon. Sorry, say that again.
Where is Gul? Forgive me, I don't know.
It's in East Riding of Yorkshire, and the reason why we're here is this is one of the parts of the world that's going to be getting a significant amount of money in our local transport fund announcement today. The East Riding is going to be getting £168 million of money to spend over the next 7 years on its priorities on local transport, so that's why we're here.
Right. What are you going to do with that money?
Well, it's not what I'm going to do with it. We're announcing £4.7 billion for the North and the Midlands, £2.5 billion for the North, £2.2 billion for the Midlands. That money is going to local councils. It's for them to spend on the local priorities that they set, that they think are important to their local communities, and they'll reach those conclusions by consulting those communities, but also talking, very importantly, to their members of Parliament about what those important local transport priorities are. The whole point is it's not for ministers to set those priorities, it's for councils to set them. We think those decisions are better made closer to the people that are going to benefit from them.
Party calling this a back of a fag packet plan and another example of broken promises. I mean, they've got a point, haven't they? To quote the Shadow Transport Secretary, she says only the Conservatives have the brass neck to promise yet another transformation of transport infrastructure in the Midlands and the North after 14 years of countless broken promises to do just that.
Well, not in the slightest. This is only possible, this money, transformational spending actually, is only possible because of the decision the Prime Minister took last year to cancel the second phase of HS2, stop spending a third of the country's transport budget on a single rail line, and instead spend a significant amount of money, £4.7 billion, in the North and the Midlands on local transport priorities for councils to spend over the next 7 years on the things that their communities think are important. So new roads, new road junctions, refurbished bus and rail stations, new electric vehicle charging points, anything that they think is important to improve the local journeys that people take every day of the week. That's a very clear commitment. It's a commitment we made last year, and we're now today setting out the detail of the money that will be available to local councils. I think most local councils will find that a very exciting prospect. They've never had this sort of money before to spend on local transport priorities, ever.
And that could be potholes, for instance, could it?
Yes, it could. We've, as you know, Eamon, because I've been on your programme setting out before, we set out last year £8.3 billion across the whole of the country for councils to spend on improving local road maintenance. That was also from HS2 savings. Local authorities could use some of this to improve those local roads further, or they could use it for other transport priorities. But the brilliant thing is it'll be up to them and local people to decide what those priorities are, not somebody telling them in Whitehall. We've previously had money available for those big city regions and those elected mayors, people like Andy Street and Ben Houchen. This is the money that's now going, equivalent money, going to smaller cities and towns and rural areas across the North and the Midlands to enable them to take the same transformative transport decisions. That's what you get if you get a Conservative government.
Can we talk about Lee Anderson and the comments that he has made? Oliver Dowden yesterday struggling to use the words Islamophobic. Do you think that his language was Islamophobic? And if not, what did you want, indeed the party, want him to apologise for? And why was the whip removed?
Well, look, I think what Lee Anderson said about the Mayor of London was wrong. And the reason, and he was given the chance to retract those comments and to apologise for making them. He didn't do so, and that's why the whip was removed very swiftly, and I think that was the right decision. There are many things to criticise Sadiq Khan for. He's got a terrible record as Mayor of London. I've been very critical about his rolling out the ULEZ scheme with a false prospectus about why he's doing it, to do with air quality, when the evidence says it's nothing to do with it, pricing poorer motorists off the road. That's what we should be attacking Sadiq Khan about, his record, not about saying things that aren't correct and are wrong. And that that's why Lee Anderson had the whip removed.
Yes, but to be clear, why were they wrong? I mean, the former Justice Secretary, for example, says they were repugnant and racist, and said that it's wrong to conflate whole groups of people that are based on race or ethnicity with extremists. And Baroness Varsi, the first Muslim member of the Conservative Party cabinet, she said that the Conservative Party has been led into the gutter and that anti-Muslim racism is being used as an electoral campaign tool. So I ask you again, do you think that the language that he used was Islamophobic?
Look, I've been very clear. What he said was wrong. In my book, wrong is actually quite a strong word. It was wrong for him to say it. He was given the opportunity to retract those comments and to apologise. He didn't do so. That's why the Prime Minister and the Chief Whip took very swift action to remove the whip from him. And I think that was the right thing to do. And I hope Mr Anderson will reflect on those actions and will reconsider apologising. You know, as I said, Sadiq Khan has a very poor track record in London. I think it's very important that we beat him and we get Susan Hall elected. We do that by focusing on his record and pointing out why that's wrong. We shouldn't be saying things about him that are wrong and are not true. There's plenty in his record that we can beat him on, and I'm going to focus on his failures on transport and the failure to get London moving, his blanket 20-mile-an-hour policies, his expansion of ULEZ, his taxing of motorists, his secret plans for a network of charging cameras across London. Those are the things I'm going to campaign against Sadiq Khan on. Yeah. And that's what Lee Anderson should be doing, not saying things that are wrong.
Mark, I have to say to you, a lot of people just feel there's one narrative coming out of Westminster and the London-based media, and they don't agree with you. Bob says, many of us moan about politicians avoiding issues and not telling us the truth. Then when a politician says exactly what he thinks inside the Commons, he gets lambasted and sacked. His claims should have been discussed rather than silenced. Maybe the other politicians are scared or have their head in the sand. And a lot of people, Mark, saying that the Reform Party will get their vote as a result of all of this. James says the M25 bubble doesn't speak for the rest of the country. It's madness to think it does. Robert says, I think Lee Anderson's comments regarding Sadiq Khan are spot on and they need to be investigated. So where do we go from here, my friend?
Well, look, there are two different things there. Look, what Lee Anderson said about Sadiq Khan was wrong, and we've been very clear about that. But there are people with perfectly legitimate concerns about what happened last week, and the Prime Minister himself has said it's quite wrong that the threat of violence against MPs and the sort of mob behaviour we saw that was allowed to change the procedures in the House of Commons. And, you know, Keir Starmer has questions to answer about why he put the Speaker under such pressure to change the rules in Parliament to reflect threats to MPs. We should never change what we do in Parliament because of threats to members of Parliament. And we work very closely, the authorities, with the police to protect members of Parliament so that they can say in Parliament what they want without fear or favour. But we do also have a responsibility as members of Parliament to make sure we say things that are accurate. And as I said, what Lee Anderson said about Sadiq Khan was wrong and he shouldn't have said it.
OK, Mark Harper, we've got to leave it there. Thank you for your announcement today on the programme. Good luck.
Thanks, Eamon. Thanks.
Not at all. The transport budget there. Your views, you've heard what Mark Harper's had to say. Let us know what you think.